Hi, Adrian here from the National Health and Fitness Academy. This evening I've got the great honour to interview one of my good friends, personal mentors, and the founder and managing director of the National Health and Fitness Academy, Dave Burgis. So this evening what we're going to go through is just a series of questions that have been submitted by the students in his current Bamboo course. So just a bit background on the Bamboo course. It's a specialised program designed for personal trainers to help them accelerate to get into the industry once they finish their Cert 3 and Cert 4. But to start off with, I'd like to get to know Dave a bit better. And Dave, can you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself and a bit about your background?
Sure, mate. Well, first of all, I got into the industry around about 7 years ago. I was doing many jobs that I didn't really want to do. In the beginning, I actually quite enjoyed some of those jobs, but they weren't really fulfilling me. I didn't really get the self-satisfaction from them, and in the end, I wanted more. So what I decided to do is look for something that I thought I would actually enjoy, and that was either something to do with like a sports shop originally, but then of course a gym for me. So I looked into what I had to do to get a job in a gym, and all of a sudden I started to find all these jobs which required a Cert 3 or Certificate 3 and 4 in fitness. And at that stage I knew absolutely nothing about it. I didn't know what I had to do. So I researched it and found out that that was a full personal training course. So I went to a provider and I got enrolled. And against what a lot of people actually thought I should have done. So there's lots of people out there that'll always knock what you really want to do, and I found that was definitely the case with myself when I first wanted to get started into personal training. I did my personal training course, and then I started within the industry in that year, so I think that was 2005, maybe 2006, and became a full-time personal trainer. I actually started presenting too in the same year, so started teaching personal training, which I really, really enjoyed. I've had different, personal training studios, so I've had 3 different studios. Trained, obviously hundreds of clients and thousands of students as well now. So it's been a fantastic, time for me. I love the industry dearly, and I love nothing more than making, people become great personal trainers.
Definitely. So bringing it right back to the start, before you did your course, before you started, doing a bit of research, what triggered that change in you and just wanted a different path?
Well, I think, mate, there's always, 2 main motivators in life. There's pleasure and there's pain. And for me, I just had enough pain in terms of I was sick and tired of going to work doing something that I didn't want to do anymore. And so I looked into, it sounds really funny, but a light bulb went off and I thought, well, why don't I do something I actually enjoy? And it's what I find a lot of people do. They get to a point where they're sick and tired of working, doing jobs they don't like, and then all of a sudden they think that. And for me, like I said, that was personal training. I thought I'd love personal training, and it turns out I did. But the main thing for me was I was sick and tired of doing jobs I just didn't want to do anymore.
Definitely. And for yourself, mate, a lot of people, like you mentioned, you've trained a lot of people. Some of them have been actually high-end athletes and top-level trainers and that sort of thing. So what things do you believe that made you successful in the industry, and what were your biggest strengths and biggest assets?
Well, I think, mate, for me it was that burning desire to become successful in what I was doing. I'm quite a competitive person. So for me it was always to try and become as good as what I possibly could. I didn't want to be average anymore. So for me it was that burning desire to do something with myself, and then after a while to really leave a legacy. There's nothing better than helping a person to succeed and do something that they never actually thought they could do. For the athletes it was great. I was very fortunate to train some great athletes and help them to gain a lot of success in their different areas and different sports.
Fantastic. And at what point in your personal training did you decide to break away and do the presenting?
It was actually quite early on. I was very lucky. One of my personal training teachers actually took a real liking to me and thought I'd do really well in it, which was a massive surprise to me because back then I was quite shy and I didn't really want to speak too much, and public speaking, I had a massive fear of public speaking. So for me it was really different, and at first I just went no, flat out. I didn't want to do it. So he asked me sort of what would it take to get you into teaching, and I just said, look, it's not something I want to do. And I actually thought about it, and I thought, well, if I really want to challenge myself, this would be a great challenge for me. So I started teaching, and then I was quite bad at it, I think. So after a while, I developed my skills, and I got around the guys that were teaching and that were really good at it. And as you know, if you get around people that are really good at what they do, it'll only be a matter of time before you'll hopefully gain at least some of those skills to becoming better. So I found that after a few months, I started to develop some good communication skills in being able to speak and to teach. and then it sort of blossomed from there. So I was quite lucky. It was in the same year, so it was the same year I started personal training.
Fantastic. That happened pretty quick for
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. And throughout your whole career, so obviously you got your own RTO and stuff now too. Is there any point you consider probably the most challenging? Was it with the personal training, with presenting, or actually creating your own company?
Well, I think, mate, as you go along, I think when I first started, I was a very average person, really. Small problems had come up, and I'd think they were the end of the world, So as you go through life, I think you get better and better, and you progress, and I think as you become a bigger person, the challenges seem less and less each time. But as you become a better person and you strive for more success, I think the problems probably are larger problems each time as well. So I found when I first started personal training was a challenge. That was a challenge in itself. And I found that the people and my clients were challenging. Then when I got my own personal training studio, I found that the trainers were really challenging for me. So there were problems there, and I had problems with the leases and problems, lots of different problems along the way. Then the final one, I think the biggest one, and especially these days, is the RTO, which is a registered training organisation, to be able to train people in the Certificate 3 and 4 in fitness. That's quite challenging due to the costs, the compliance costs, and then just basically the pressures of the compliance. I think that's one of the main things. I think if I had to bring it back to the biggest challenge, it was the financial challenge of starting the school, due to the fact that I thought it was going to be around about half the cost of what it actually turned out to be. I think that if I would have known, I think sometimes you're really lucky, because if you know what the real costs are, you probably never ever do it. If you knew the challenges that were in store for you, I don't think you'd do a lot of it a lot of the time. So I was really lucky where I went into it thinking that it was only going to be half the cost and half the challenges, and otherwise I would never have got started. And I think once you're in it, then if you've got that burning desire to be successful and to do well, then you'll always find a way.
Definitely. And as you mentioned before, you got pretty much hand-selected to go into presenting by one of your personal mentors as well. What kind of opportunities are there in roles like that for people come through their PT courses?
Yeah, I think there are definitely always opportunities, and I'm always looking out for people that I think would be great. The challenge is that I still like to do most of the presenting myself. I like to make sure that the students have a really great education, or the best education that I can provide them with. But if someone's more skillful than me in a certain area, then I'm more than happy for them to take that. So I look for guys that are great with sales, like yourself. I look at guys that can do boot camps, group exercise, and I give them as much of an opportunity as what I possibly can. I guess to a certain degree the roles are fairly limited, but I think here's the thing I do know. If you're really great at what you do, and you've got the skills, you've got the knowledge and that burning desire, then you'll always be able to force your way into any position.
Definitely. Obviously, great advice there for anybody who wants to get into presenting. But just back to yourself, obviously you've done the PT, you've done the presenting. What actually triggered the change into make your own course and be a provider for persons who want their Cert 3 and 4?
Yeah, it was actually one of my clients I was training, and he was an athlete and he was a dancer, and he did extremely well. He's actually on So You Think You Can Dance. And he did really well on that show, and that gave him the stepping stone to go on and create a couple of dance studios and dance schools. So the guys were actually coming in and doing a full-time dance course, and he wanted to make sure that they had some sort of qualification to fall back on, because the dance industry, entertainment industry is cutthroat. So there's not always a lot of opportunities. So we put this program into place, so having the Certificate 3 and Certificate 4 as well, so that they could go back and do some personal training, whether it be part-time or full-time. And it's been great, because many of those guys have gone on and done that now. But it just so happened that he needed me to come up with this. He approached me to come up with the Certificate 3 and 4, knowing that I'd been teaching it for a long time. And I put a program together, and like I said, it was about half the cost that I thought it would be. So the first couple of years were very challenging, and then I started to develop part-time courses, and basically the business is built through referrals, which is great, which is a great sign as well. But and now we do full-time courses, we do part-time courses. I was teaching in Sydney for a time, and in Brisbane, but these days we just base it on the Gold Coast, and it's great. The guys love it.
Definitely. Now I know you've got a wealth of knowledge from all different backgrounds, your own training, your sales, your mentoring side of things, and you now have the Natural Health and Fitness Academy. So for everybody out there, how are you guys different?
I think the main difference with us is that we're more personalised, and that we try and give as much individualised training as possible. So we always cap our class sizes to make sure they're nice and small. We've always kept them around about 12, so that the guys are doing really well. I know exactly where they're at, and I can help them individually. So As I think I said before, I do 80% of the teaching myself. So with that, I see the guys when they first come in. I don't really have a sales team, so to speak, that go in there and make calls and do all those kind of things. For me, it's I'll actually make the phone call when I get a referral or something along those lines. I meet with you first up. I discuss what you really want to get out of the program. We put a plan together for you. You then go through the program. We make sure that you build your strengths and your weaknesses to make sure that you become a great PT within the program. Then what we also provide is the mentor program, which is the program, as you said before at the beginning, that helps trainers really rapidly grow their business when they first get started. So there's many unique things to our business. We also say that our byline, so to speak, is the best value personal training courses. So yeah.
Fantastic. And you did briefly mention on the Bamboo course, and I did mention at the start, this is there to help PTs get into the industry, but I know you're a passionate person. I know you'd love to tell them, how did the Bamboo course come about?
Bamboo course the mentor program really came about because of the lack of direction when you're first finishing. I mean, there's so many trainers that go into the gyms or into the studios, into the industry full stop, and don't do that well. So for me, it was about not only just making personal trainers, but it was more about making successful personal trainers, and that's where I get a lot of my satisfaction from. Really, for me, it's about making sure that a trainer comes through and then not only gets in the industry but becomes extremely successful, has the business that they want to have, and then the biggest thing for me is that the lifestyle they want to have, because that's why most people get into personal training to even begin with. So I've been extremely lucky. I mean, my life changed completely when I did my program, and I just want to create the same opportunity for everyone else.
Fantastic. But clearly you've achieved so much, highly successful person. So what's, a couple of actions, a couple of things you've put in place to make sure you do succeed in business?
I think so that's a tough question. I think there are so many things. I think the biggest one for me was I realised that if I wanted a great business, I had to become great in different areas. And average people get average results. So I had to change from being average, which I definitely was, into getting around more successful people. It was changing my circle of influence and making sure that I was developing myself all the time, like constant, never-ending improvement. I think that's a key that most really great business people have. And I think the other one for me was there's always many things that people know that they should do. The difference is, lots of people don't do it for whatever reason. For me, what I wanted to do is make sure that I had my shoulds, turn my shoulds into musts. And when I realised that when I started changing my shoulds into musts, that's when I really made progress. And once you make progress, I think it gives you that more desire and gives you more drive as you're going along, because you are making that progression.
Fantastic. And anybody who's been around you for any amount of time can realise you've got so much energy and so much passion, and you are a very driven man. So what fuels that constant drive, and is there any point of you, just thought about just giving up?
I wouldn't say necessarily giving up. Possibly one or two. I think you always get to those points, whether it's for 2 minutes sometimes, but never really giving up. I mean, I'm very passionate about the industry. For me, where I get my drive from, I've got this burning desire to become successful. That's just how I am. But I think for me, it's also about helping as many people as possible to get into the industry. Like I said before, my whole life changed, and from that point on, I've always been very, very grateful. And for me, it's about making sure that I can help other people get into the same position. So if you're a person that hates your job and it's just sick and tired of doing the same boring thing every single day without any satisfaction, you're just sitting there waiting for Friday to come along, then I want to be able to help that person get out of the job that they hate into a career that they love, so they can lead their ideal lifestyle.
Definitely. And you mentioned that lifestyle perfectly, because one of the next questions did come in from one of the students. And like I said, you are a very hard-working man, so they want to know, how do you get to that point where there's that work-life balance? How do you come to that, and how do you know, when to spoil yourself and treat yourself when you've gotten so much?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions with that. So I think the first one is in terms of balance. It's very, very challenging to get balance. Yeah. I believe that's my personal opinion, because as soon as you start to focus on one area, it's probably taking away slightly from another area. If you're really working hard on your health and your fitness, etc., then maybe possibly your career's going not as well as what you would have hoped, or relationships, or something's always suffering a little bit. But I think the main key is to try and work. I think you've got to have massive work ethic and enjoy your work. And if you enjoy your work and you've got passion for your work, then automatically you're going to feel better about yourself. You're probably going to do better in your business, and when you do better in your business, hopefully you won't have to work as many hours, which means that you get more time to spend on the different things like recreation, your friends, your family, etc. So, I've been and done massive amounts of hours where, you're working that 90 to 100 hours a week consistently, week in, week out, and you get burnt out. You're not enjoying yourself. You get sick and tired of work, and you really struggle for that life balance. So, when you've got a great product and you really believe in your product and you've got the right strategy and your business is doing really well, then hopefully it gives you that little bit of extra time to spend in those different areas and try and get that balance.
Definitely. And you did touch on strategy there. Like, what's the best way of putting a strategy in place? Is it to find a mentor or do research yourself? How would someone get that strategy in place so they do get that bit of balance in their life?
Yeah, the strategy is really important. One thing I'd say before the strategy though is your mindset. Your mindset has to be great. I mean, you have to have a good, strong mindset. I would say that's at least half. It's probably, it's probably 80%. 80% mindset to make sure that you're strong, you're driven, you're focused, you're determined, and when things do pop up, when challenges pop up, which they're always going to, that you've got that attitude, well, I'll do whatever it takes to get over that. So once you've got that attitude, then the strategy comes into play. So I would say that one of the real keys is to make sure that you've got a really good mentor or a leader or a teacher that can take you through and show you how to avoid those mistakes that they've probably made in the past. I think that's a real key. I don't think you need to learn the mistakes. I think if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not going hard enough. But at the same time, there's many mistakes that you can avoid by modelling off other successful people. I mean, that's what most successful people do. They model off someone else. And we're taught at school, not to copy and all those kind of things. I was pretty bad at that. But these days, I think, I'll try and copy as much as I possibly can. I look at the really successful people and I go, well, what are they doing that I'm currently not? And then I start to try and change my strategy to fit in with those really successful people. So get a mentor, get someone that's doing really, really well in a certain area that you want to do well in, and copy them. Definitely. Obviously put your own flavour on or do your own thing, but individualise it. But you've got to have a mentor, a good teacher.
Awesome, great advice there. So obviously go out, grow your mindset, get yourself around good people and find yourself that mentor, and you'll be able to get a bit more balance in your life.